Previously on Hoochos. Welcome back to Hoochos. Today on Hoochos, I'll be covering two main systems. We'll be covering the vertical hydroponic system just out of shot to your left, and we'll also be covering the Oxypot hydroponic system that I reviewed and set up in a previous video. So we'll start with our Oxypot and we'll move over to our vertical, and I'll give you a quick rundown on what the rest of the greenhouse is doing at the end, and a little bit of a personal update on how things are going with the acquisition of the property. Okay, so first of all, this is the Oxypot hydroponic system. Now, I've actually been really impressed with this hydroponic system. Not just because it's been a set and forget hydroponic system. I have not maintained this at all. I have topped it up once. I've put 15 liters of hydroponic nutrient into it. When I checked it on that top up, which was about halfway through the grow, the nutrient was being utilized at the same rate as the water. So the EC was the same as when I originally set it, and I set it at 2.4 EC for flowering and fruiting, and the pH hadn't changed either. So this method of delivery and the way that these plants have been utilizing the nutrients has been even throughout the grow. So I just added in 2.4 EC, pH 6 nutrient. I didn't have to adjust the nutrient that was already in the system. So there is a cover in the middle that you remove and you just top the nutrient up. And these plants are in full flower and full fruit. And when I say full fruit, I really mean it. I didn't pollinate these, they self-pollinated, which was amazing. So there is one of the fruits, and there is another really large fruit back here, which I hadn't seen until today. So I'm really impressed with this. Have a look. Wow. I don't even know if is that two fruits? Look. Well, it is what it is. Look at the size of that fruit. I'm sorry. I am sorry about this. Where was I? Oh yeah, so yeah, this is in full flower, as you can see, and in full fruit. I definitely could have done a better job of maintaining this system. but we have a really interesting result. That is a large eggplant. I've never actually seen an eggplant shaped like that before. I haven't had any nutrient deficiencies. The method of delivery has been amazing. So I'm going to chop these plants down and we're going to have a look at the roots within the system. And I'm really excited to see that. I've got to be careful because they're actually really spiky. And I'm going to cut down the other one as well. While I'm doing this, I would like to say, this is the Migro array. Now, it's not the latest array, but this is a brilliant light. So thank you for the guys over at Migro for sending it out to me. There's no sponsored content here. It's just that this was the perfect form factor for this system. And it has performed perfectly. I don't even think I have it on full. Let's have a look. No, it was only on about 75% for the entirety of that grow. So it has a ton of power, and from what I can remember, it was a really high efficacy light as well. And I love this form factor because you can have it in this orientation, or rather than having it in this orientation, you can have 4 lights in a row rather than 2 lights connecting at the ends. Another benefit of this system is I'm not worried about pumps running dry. That air pump is absolutely fine to run dry within this system. The only thing that can be harmed by the nutrients running out is the plants not having any water, and you'll definitely see that as a physical anomaly on the plants. And this is what I mean by where you can refill. This is the section, oh wow, it is absolutely empty. They have sucked up all of the nutrients. So this is where you would refill it, and this is where I would definitely need to refill it right now, because have a look at this. They are actually wet on the bottom, but they're quite dry. I really would have needed to have refilled this if I was going to keep these plants, because there's actually no water in there. Let me just show you. Look at that. There's no nutrient left whatsoever. And this is what the roots look like. Have a go at those roots. They are healthy as, and there's no sign of root rot. That is incredible. That is beautiful. Let's put this aside. Our pH is 6.6. So the pH hasn't changed, and the EC hasn't changed. So they've used it within this system. They've used the nutrients in the water at exactly the same rate. It's gone up slightly, and they've also not changed the pH of the water at all. So you can utilize, and you can see where I've filled it up to here, you can utilize the entirety of this reservoir and then just top it up immediately. So all the way from the top coming down, this is where I refilled it, and then it's dropped down again. This is a really good hydroponic system, and I think we can make a DIY version of it without much fuss at all. So keep an eye open for this space, and we're going to emulate this system in a DIY capacity to save you guys some money. I just want to do a quick update on our mini NFT. This is the cracker of a system. It works flawlessly. It will work as a propagation area or as a leafy green supply. And as you can see here, I've just dumped in some lettuce. So I can highly recommend that you build this system if it is the right form factor for you and you don't have much space. I've been really impressed with the results of this design. Also, I've been working on this, a cheap alternative to net cups in a crack key system that I'm working on right now. And this video will be released as soon as those plants are fully mature. So get excited for that, and let's go to the greenhouse. This is the vertical hydroponic system. Now, there is, as usual, a ton wrong with this grow. The lettuce is definitely stressed. The timing of the feeding of the nutrients could be a little bit more tuned. And at this point in the day, it's just before noon and it's really hot. You can see they are weeping. In the B-roll that I'm showing you though, that is in the morning before the sun gets really intense, and you can tell that the lettuce are a bit more perky. Also, it depends on at what point the timer is turning on that water. So that is another reason that there's stress. You could run this system a lot more frequently, especially if you ironed out all of the leaks. Now at the bottom here, it's actually quite interesting because now these are volunteer tomatoes. These are seeds that dropped from the wick wedge hydroponic system tomatoes. Some of the tomatoes dropped onto the ground and the seeds obviously got mixed into this crusher dust. These tomatoes have voluntarily popped up because obviously there's some leaks at the bottom of this system and they are actually really healthy. So I've just been letting them grow. I want to see what happens because I want to know whether this crusher dust can actually be used as a hydroponic growing medium because they seem not to have any nutritional defects. They are just getting fed with whatever hydroponic nutrient drops onto them. This is definitely just a suck it and see experiment because I didn't mean for this to happen, but in science, that is how a lot of things are discovered, generally by accident. So I'm gonna leave these tomatoes growing where they are. As you can see at the back here, I've actually got some basil in the pipe that returns back to the reservoir. And they're doing okay. They are lacking a little bit of light, but as you can see, it's just acting as a little bit of a mini NFT. And I just sit them in the pipes to cover that hole so that I don't get so much light leakage into that pipe. So I guess we should probably take one of these lettuce out and see what they look like when you remove them. So you can actually see with this one how the lettuce has actually grown down, but then it will grow and support itself back up. So I'll remove all the back of the leaves to this lettuce so you can see how the structure of the lettuce is working. But you can see it's just supporting itself because of the way that these holders support the lettuce once it is in the system. And you can see there's not much to it. It's just sort of hanging and held by the plugs. And I'll get you a shot of this. This is actually really interesting. Yeah, there we go. So I don't know if you can see in there. There it is. So you can see the roots growing down the pipe on the inside. So I'll remove another one. This one's rooted in there really well. Interested to see how this one pops out. So those are the roots. And you can see I've ripped them because they've actually grown. You can see they've grown down the hole in the base of the holder. Yeah, so there's actually not that many roots coming out of these plants. They're just getting fed directly on the cocoa pellets, which is absolutely fine. And you can see there where that divot is, where the plant's actually being held up in place. So one thing I do want to talk about is the back of this system. Now, the front of the system, the plants are a little bit stressed because of an inconsistency in watering in the schedule of the pump, I think. But at the back, we're getting stressed because of a lack of light. I actually don't think it's worth having plant placement on the back of the system. I think if we look at systems like Zip Grow, where they're a single-sided vertical system, from what I'm seeing here, that is probably ideal because you're gonna get all of the light predominantly on one side if you're not on the equator. So for me here in Queensland, my sun is north, and my northern side is going to be predominantly where the sun is going to be most of the time. So I actually would recommend, I have got plants growing on this side, but you can see they're just struggling a lot. Some of them haven't survived at all, and I've actually replaced the ones on this side once before. So the success rate on this side is very low. So I would definitely consider only having your plants on the sunny side of your system. Okay, so I have made some changes since I built this system. I have added in a float valve. Now this has been necessary because there is some leakage in this system and it's refilling from my 1,000 litre IBC, which is full of premixed nutrients. So it's 2.4 EC, 6.0 pH nutrient, and it just tops up the nutrient here, and that refills when the plants use it and when this system leaks a little, as it does. I haven't noticed that it uses excessive amounts, so I'm not unhappy with the small leaks that it has because they're somewhat productive. And from here, the pump just pumps up through a tube that runs through each of the pipes up the middle and disperses out the top. Now, all of the 3D printable files are available on my Patreon for this system and for every other 3D printable hydroponic system that I've featured on this channel as well. So head over to my Patreon if you want those files and you can gain access to them. Okay, so just moving around the greenhouse quickly, I've got some cos lettuce here that are well and truly past their harvest time, but I've been eating them regularly, so I don't want to harvest them all at once and get rid of them until the cos lettuces behind me is ready to be harvested. Although I do have excessive amounts of lettuce, so I've just been giving that away. Now for all these lettuce, I've been using cocoa pellets. So these are 42mm cocoa pellets, and the only reason I've been using those is because I bought a large box of like over 1,000 and I'm just running through that stock. Otherwise I'd be using the cheap rock wool technique because it is a lot cheaper. It just depends on your preference. You can use literally any hydroponic starter media that you like in this system. It just drops straight in and away you grow. These tomatoes have been growing all through winter. These were the tomatoes that I planted in the Exploring the Bagged Media episode, and they've been doing really well. Because of the chaos that's been happening in my life, I really have neglected maintaining them. You can see that they're just leaning over and going all over the place, but I figure it's better than not having them grow at all. And because I've got that 1,000-litre res, which tops up my Beto bucket res, this is just a small, it's an 80-litre container, but really there's only 50 litres worth of nutrient in here at any one time because it's not fully utilised. And this just tops up from my 1,000-litre res, which is over there. There is a video on how to make a IBC top-up reservoir, and I'll link that in the corner now. This reservoir has been a lifesaver over the distracting times that I've had recently. It has just given me the flexibility to be away from home. I've been forgetting to maintain hydroponic systems. I've been neglecting them, and this has given me a 1,000-litre buffer on having to top up any of the lower hydroponic system. So the vertical hydroponic system and the Beto buckets are both topped up from this system, and also some of the root vegetable hydroponic systems are topped up when I turn them on. I haven't had them turned on over winter because I've had nothing in them, but I cleared them out recently and will be growing in them very shortly. So what I do want to do right now is I want to thank every single one of you who donated through GoFundMe, through PayPal and through Patreon. It's raised every single cent of what I needed to get me over the line in purchasing the property, and I'll do a breakdown video and a proper thank you video in the future. But I can't believe people's reaction to that, and it's really crystallized my purpose and my drive, and I'm super excited to bring you guys as much hydroponic content as I possibly can as a thank you. I'm sending off all the paperwork to a finance company tomorrow, and hopefully by the end of the month I will have secured the house, in no small part because of the support and generosity of viewers like you. So thank you so much for supporting the channel, for supporting me, and for supporting our purpose in providing information that allows people to grow their own food at home, no matter how much space they have. So thanks for watching this episode. Happy hydroponicking, and I'll see you next time on Hoochos.